Welcome back to the Smart Nonsense Podcast, where we talk about smart nonsense. Today's episode.
Did you do one of these?
I did,
Nice.
yeah, into a firework.
Fucking Broadway musical, nice. Dude.
Drinking a Topo Chico today, so that's new.
Oh, made out of glass. Nice.
Better for you, better for the environment,
Lindy.
I think. Lindy, glass is Lindy. Dude, that's a.
How
If
old
you're
is
coming,
glass?
if you're listening here for the first time, and the intro is glass is Lindy, I'm sorry, but you're screwed.
Yeah, doesn't get any better than that. Actually, Reese, our producer, he DM'd me. He's like, "Hey, this isn't really about work, but I heard on a couple podcasts you're talking about Lindy Man a lot and Lindy." So he started to get into it because he liked the idea of it. And actually, my buddy yesterday,
He's a big history buff and ancient history.
Right. That's speaking your history language, if that's the case. I was getting into a little debate, I guess, about the marathon, and you're lagging everywhere.
No, Pop, I'm here.
The marathon is fake Lindy, where everyone wants to think like, oh, they used to do that back in ancient Greece and Rome and who knows what.
Because there was some story, right, that like a messenger was delivering a message to a king or something, ran 26.2 miles and then passed out and died.
Yeah. I actually don't know the proper story, but that sounds about spot on. I don't know like where they were running from, but it was probably some war message or something. Point is like that might be true, but they didn't make the marathon 2,000 years ago because of it. It was made in like 1896 Olympics. They were just like, oh wait, this would be really good marketing to like say it was this guy that died a while back delivering this message. They only ran like 5Ks, like the max distance was 5Ks back then, and everyone's trying to justify why. Like, I guess it actually came from Sahil Bloom. Like, he was talking with my buddy Zach about running marathons versus like this new weird like triathlon sort of race where you do like multiple things. He's like, nah, dude, marathon's Lindy. I'm like, well, marathon's like kind of fake Lindy. And then we got in this little kerfuffle. I'm like, it's still like it's 100 years Lindy, so like your lifetime it'll probably still be here, but like it ain't Lindy. So everyone's just like tweaking about, I don't know, it's like 26.2 miles. Like it's not like a healthy distance to run. Like it's not a good thing to do. Everyone's just like, they're just W-2 employees that have like sorry, this fucking sounds like a chip on my shoulder. There's just like nothing to aspire to. There's no like adversity in their life other than like sitting at a desk all day. So like got to challenge themselves somehow, and everyone's just doing this bandwagon bullshit. The podcast. My bad. Did I share my feelings pretty openly right there?
Right off the hook.
Oh, but it's probably awesome.
Right off the hook. I thought
there's just a lot of marathons going on. Chicago and New York.
Running's hot right now, right? All those like running clubs popped up in New York. It's like a very social thing to do right now, but it's not social because you're just running the whole time.
Well, you're like jogging or trotting, so it's not too much of a difficult. But like even jogging, dude, that wasn't a thing until like I don't know, the last couple decades. Like you'd never 60s, catch anyone 70s. Jogging in the maybe even later. Might have been like 80s and stuff.
80s
or beyond. Dude, like people didn't exercise in the 60s, dude. It was like I think like after you became an adult, you just stopped. I don't actually know, but you definitely didn't jog back then.
I don't think people had to as much either. We might get into seed oils at this rate, Pop. If we continue down this path, processed foods, seed oils.
I remember reading somewhere where like it was some old person talking about like if you were running in the street like 50 years ago, people would think there's like a burglar or like there's some sort of fire. It's like if you just came out of a little time capsule and you saw all these people jogging, you'd think there's like a mass murder going on or something. But no, that's just what we do for exercise, which is fucking crazy.
It's also what we do on the Smart Nonsense Podcast.
Yeah. Talking about the 60s, dude. I've just been stuck in that era. I can't get
Oh,
out, but I like it.
was Skunkworks era?
Well, yeah,
Fighter jets?
Skunkworks got me in.
Military industrial
Um,
complex?
yeah, yeah. I'm learning a little bit about that too, and like all their contracts and like, um, just this lot of like, um, what do you call that? Where you're like giving
Bureaucracy?
money to people you like. Um,
Lobbying.
I don't. Yeah,
Why don't you become a lobbyist?
cronyism. Dude, you think
That's what.
I'd go to DC because I'm good with people?
Put
Um,
on a suit, take lots of
button me
meetings,
up,
and make
dude.
your claims about marathons.
Uh, yeah. Um, I will say so. Yesterday, I've also been on this kick ever since you told me you bought SpongeBob. I'm like, wow, I might just buy things like rather than like
What do you mean I
subscribe
bought
to.
SpongeBob? Like I bought the
I
seasons to
I
watch?
subscribed to Paramount Plus so I could watch SpongeBob, and I've been subscribed for months now. So I've probably spent like fucking $50 to watch like one season of SpongeBob. And you told me you bought it, and I'm like, it seemed crazy at the time, but I'm like, oh wow, I would have saved money if I just bought it, and now I'm subscribed for forever. If I unsubscribe, I
Well,
don't get access to SpongeBob. Um, point being, I wanted to watch this show about the Cold War and space race, and so instead of doing a free trial, I just went and bought it on Amazon the whole season, and I did that yesterday too
oh,
with another Skunkworks movie because I was super into that.
well, yeah, I actually just bought a movie this past week. Look, you could justify it any which way you want, but this movie wasn't out streaming yet that I wanted to watch with Athena, and it was $20. But I was like, if we went to the movie theater, it'd be $25 each.
Right, movie's
So
$50, man. If you go on a date these days, yeah, easy. Just I bought the whole season one for like $9.98 or something, so that was sick.
yeah, well, yeah,
That's
you're
$10.
notoriously bad at getting out of subscription services in
Yeah,
time.
well, I tweeted yesterday because I felt really proud of myself. I subscribe now. I subscribe and unsubscribe immediately, like it's within 30 seconds of each other, because they usually
So that
let
you
you
get
go
a
till the end.
you
Yeah,
get
I'm
a
just like
week
I'm
or
gonna do a
two,
month.
or
If I like it at the end of the month, I'll renew it. But like if not, it's an opt-in renewal, not opt out.
right.
Which
That's
good for
good.
me. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, because your issue
Um.
is you just forget about it. Like Andrew
Yeah. Yeah.
Wilkinson's
I got to do an audit again.
Twitter
It's
Premium.
been a minute. Oh yeah. Yeah, I got some of those, but I like supporting creators, even though they have more money than me. So, but incentivize it. Um, so I got this Cold War. Just a little nugget from the Cold War. It's about the space race. And it's pretty sick because JFK just gets up and he's like, "Hey, within the decade, we're gonna put a man on the moon." Fucking super sick. Like, get the boys rallied. Um, get everybody if you watch
Boys and
that.
girls.
The What's the movie with the three black chicks that are like at NASA and they do math? Um,
Oh, um,
remember that one?
Octavia
Yeah,
Spencer.
yeah,
Isn't she
that.
in that one?
Yeah, Hidden Figures, something
They're
like that.
Hidden Figure. That's a good movie.
Is
The Human
that what it is?
Computers.
Yeah, I might want to rewatch
I'm gonna
that.
I'm
But
gonna fact check that right now so we don't get into trouble here, because be over my
about what?
skis. Just if I mess this one up. Yeah, Hidden Figures.
Nice.
Octavia Spencer. Nailed
Yeah.
it.
So dudes and chicks, just get everyone rallied, and
Actually, yeah, so for anyone who doesn't know, the women actually did all of the computations. They did all of the math because that was like a
well, is that
mendo.
real?
Oh, I think so. They were human calculators, right?
Uh, yeah, I don't actually know.
Uh-oh.
At least in Skunkworks, it was just like Skunkworks was like 100 dudes just using slide rules, which is like the early calculator. Actually, phenomenal. I went down that rabbit hole of how slide rules work, uh, which is fucking crazy. It's like I'm not gonna get into it now. Could, but won't. Um, so who knows who did the math? I guess they helped out a lot. But point is, it was kind of sick just seeing like the whole journey of the American space program from basically scratch. And like he basically just Parkinsoned everybody. So he was like, "Hey, we got a decade to do this." and I think they started in like 60. At least that's when the first rocket went up. I think those were the Mercury missions. Um, like not to the planet, but that's what it was called. And then 69, Neil Armstrong or whatever actually lands on the moon and bounces around. Um, I could do an impression of him. Will I? I won't.
One
Um,
small step.
One small step. I haven't gotten to that episode, so I couldn't properly do it anyway. But just really cool seeing the Parkinsons and seeing like I didn't realize Russia. I kind of knew the history, but Russia was kicking our ass. Like they what they put like the first satellite Sputnik into orbit, and then they also put the first man into orbit, and they did the first spacewalk. Like they kind of like fucking
Yeah.
three striked us right out the gate. So we just had like the ultimate Hail Mary of like, hey, man on the moon is like the real deal. Like all this other stuff is like cool, but we don't have to be the first for that. But it's just cool seeing like when there's an actual race, how everyone's like, hey, um, so this it was like Mercury, then what was the name of the one after? I'm forgetting.
Apollo
But
or Atlas or something.
before Apollo, I think there were three. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever it was, they weren't supposed to do spacewalks there, but then the Russians started doing spacewalks. So like, fuck, you're gonna get out of this whole satellite and whatever out of the capsule. But
Gemini.
also Gemini, dude, Gemini.
Well, it was Mercury, then a couple Apollos, then Gemini, then the rest of the Apollos.
Oh,
I think.
what was interesting with Gemini is,
I can't be right.
dude, they were literally like, they just took missiles and they're like, hey, we're just gonna put people on top of the missiles instead of nukes. So we're just gonna like swap that out. And so they're just like a rocket's just a fucking missile, and it's just funny. It's just like we're just gonna point it straight up, and you're just gonna ride the missile, and it's like it never really sunk in that that's like literally what you're doing. And the missiles they had them use, they're like, yeah, 1 in 5 would blow up. So we really hoped that wasn't the case. But we kind of crushed it. I don't think anyone died. But in the I think the spacewalk. So what do you say, Gemini missions?
Yeah, I had that wrong. Yeah, so Mercury, Gemini, then Apollo. They're just out of order on my thing.
So Gemini, I think the first guy into space, John Glenn, I believe. He was the first one. Then the second guy, I think it was Scott Carpenter. Scott, he went up, and like I think Scott was the first guy, John Glenn. They didn't have windows in it because it added too much weight and probably complicated like reentry with getting hot or whatever. So they didn't have windows, but then Scott Carpenter did get a window. And so when he went up there with the window, he was fucking eating it up. And everyone on the ground is like, yo, Scott, you're just going to do like 3 orbits around Earth and come right back in. He's like, yeah, sure. Got it. But then they see him up there and he's using all the boosters to like get sick views. So they're like, Scott, dude, like you got to save your boosters. Like you're going to have to like orient yourself and like use them for reentry. He's like, yeah, totally got it. And he's just fucking buzzing around looking at every little thing because it's the only way you can like change the window angle. So he literally uses all the fuel in like the automatic like reorient yourself for coming back to Earth. And like some other thing got like the way you calibrate, basically like you have a heat shield, I guess, at the bottom, but like there's less heat shield on the other parts. So like you got to orient yourself perfectly so that you come back to Earth right. But he used up all the gas for the automatic. So now he's gonna like manually get it right. And his like instrument to calibrate how to get it right is all fucked up. So basically he like almost used all his manual fuel. He still has a little bit left. And he tries to like wing it. He didn't tell him that his fucking instrument to calibrate is off. So he's just like, he used it all to like snap a bunch of photos and just like have cool views of the horizon and sunrise. And then he just ends up like totally missing his trajectory because he was fucking winging it. And he lands like 250 miles into the sea beyond where he was supposed to. And so he's just like floating out there for 3 hours before they can find the guy. And they get him, they're like, dude, what the fuck? He's like, the view though, dude. The view is sick.
You give a man a window.
Yeah, give a man a window. And then the next guy, they started doing space flights because of the Russians. And he was out there for like half an hour and like refused to come back in because he loved it so much. And like, no, dude, we gotta pull you back. And
Oh,
he's
a
like, no,
walk,
dude, just leave me.
a spacewalk.
Yeah, they just give him a little bungee cord and fucking send him out there. And he's just like, no, dude, I don't want to come back. He was eating it up. So it seems sick, dude. They were all about it. And it's nice, dude. It's just nice
I
seeing what
feel
they
like
can
I
do.
saw a really good movie about this. Oh, I think it was Damien
Apollo 13?
Chazelle.
Oh,
No, not the old ones, a newer one. I think
was
it's
that
just called
11?
Apollo. Damien Chazelle. He did Whiplash. He did La La Land. Uh, Maybe it's called First Man. No, that can't be it. Come on. Well, it says it's called First Man, but that doesn't look right. I don't know. I think I thought it was good, so maybe it's good. Maybe you could check it out, report back. It's got Ryan Gosling as
Well, it's got Ryan
what's the guy's
Gosling.
name?
I'm
Neil
into like
Armstrong?
documentaries.
Oh no, this is
Although
a
they reenactment.
reenactment.
They did say the Tom Hanks was it Apollo 11 or 13? I forget which number, but 13 just sounds like bad
I
news.
think one of those blew
Um,
up.
um, well, one of them like they had like
11 was the one that
complete
landed
failure.
on the moon.
Okay, so maybe it was 13 then.
Yeah.
Whatever the Tom Hanks movie one is, like all their
Says
shit.
landing aborted on 13.
Yeah, and they had to do like some crazy slingshot back to Earth with like all their instruments fried. We should
Oh
actually
yeah.
watch that if you haven't seen that.
Malfunction, forced cancellation of lunar landing.
Yeah,
That was 13.
that was 13. Well, it makes sense. Um,
No, I haven't seen
you
that.
haven't seen that movie?
No, and then there
Oh,
was
let's watch
one
that.
where they just in a test flight on Earth, they got locked inside, right, with
Oh,
oxygen
and they
and
all
like
burned alive.
yeah. I forget which one
Yeah,
that
don't
was. That
spoil that
was
one for me. I forget.
sorry.
Well, I knew about it. I just
Yeah.
uh, there was one of the early was it Gemini missions? One of them like the capsule, they like blew the door off the capsule, whatever, so he could get out. But then when they did that, like when it was in the water and landed, water started pouring in, and so the capsule started sinking. So he like jumped out, but when he like was in the water, he opened his mask so he could like see things. But then water started pouring in his spacesuit, and so you get the capsule sinking, and then there's like a helicopter that's supposed to help him, but the helicopter sees the capsule sinking, so it goes to save the capsule. But then he's also sinking because like fucking water's pouring into his spacesuit, and like he fucking can't see anything. And so everyone's just tweaking out because the pilots didn't realize that he was drowning, and and they were trying to like
Which one
pull up
was that?
this.
I've seen that. And did they get him or did they run out of time? I think they got
They
him in the
actually
nick
did
of
get him.
time.
I wasn't sure. Yeah, they got him.
There's footage
I
of
think
it,
it was a
right? Like the
second helicopter.
helicopter over the water and the guy's like
Yeah,
I can't remember what
freaking
one that
out.
was.
That was Glenn. Glenn. Fuck, what's his name? It's like Grissom or something. I don't know. I'm mixing names, but um, yeah, dude, it's just like it's fucking crazy what they do. And originally, before they sent John Glenn up, they put a chimp in just to see what was going on. And you see like the chimp's heart rate like going through the fucking roof because it's getting sent up to orbit at 9 Gs. Like, what the fuck is this? Comes back sweating bullets,
It
dehydrated.
lived.
And it was, I think the dog died though, and when the Russians sent
Oh.
the dog.
Oh, the Russians did a dog. That's not good.
This didn't get much of the Russian side, which I wanna see, because you know those Russians were fucking scrappy, dude. They were actually in my
What?
Skunkworks book. They were talking about how the Russians would just like roast American planes and everything. They're like, you Americans, you want to make like Mercedes Benz? Like, no, we have like tin box with wheels. That's our car. And like their
As a
analogy,
rocket?
yeah, like they'll
There's
just scrap together anything and fucking fire it up there and just see what happens. Versus like we want everything to be perfect and like have multiple redundancies on everything. And like, no, we just fucking fire. It's like
yeah, what's
so.
up with that? Because I feel like there are still ways like their ethos is still kind of like that. It's almost like they weren't It's almost like a kamikaze thing. Maybe it's like a patriotism thing, but I feel like they had pilots and whatnot that are like willing to. They just seem crazier. They're willing
But
to die for
did
the cause, and the humans are like, we have to. Sorry, not the humans. The Americans are like, we have to mitigate all loss of life.
yeah.
But they're like,
I
I
mean,
don't know. It's like a
dude, have you heard about the Eastern Front in World War II? Or
no.
like fucking dude, I mean Stalin was like more brutal than Hitler. Like
Mm.
they they didn't have good weapons or anything really. So they just like, hey, we got 10 times the amount of people as everybody else, so that's our weapon. And they just send people in without guns. And they're like, hey, you're gonna run at people, and then when they die, you just pick up their weapons and that's your gun now. And it's like, dude, that's their
But then
strategy.
also the people or the soldiers, or maybe because it's a little bit more top down government. Like you don't have a say in
It's
not
like, yeah, it's like a
doing
dictatorship,
that. Right. It's like all men
basically.
age 19 do this now. It's like,
Yeah. I
all
think
right,
just
shoot.
your life back. I think it was super patriotic and stuff, so who knows? But yeah, I think they just valued life differently out there. I remember there would be stories. This is from Hardcore History, Dan Carlin. He had a really good, it was like Ghosts of the Oster Front or something, whatever, the Eastern Front. Um, and they'd just like, they'd have a bunch of soldiers and they had to cross a river. And the generals on the Russian side are just like, okay, now we crossed the river. And it's like, but we don't have boats. It's like, start swimming. And it's like, we don't know how to swim. And they're like, well, fucking learn. And they just push them in the river and they just all drown. Because they have like all their weapons and it's like rapids and it's like, dude, they just didn't give a fuck. They're like,
That's
well,
kind of
I
what I'm
guess
talking
we had
about.
100 men drown. We should probably think of a different way, but only after the fact. It's
Yeah, like that would never. It
it's an
seems
odd
to me like
place.
that would never happen here, or like in our armed forces or with our pilots. It's
Yeah,
probably a
yeah. It
dictator
was,
thing.
um, so it's
Wow,
so
good
far
work.
sick. I'm only two
Good.
episodes in, but I'm just getting fucking litty, and I want to get more of the Soviet Russian side, but we'll see. I'll have
There's
to
a
find
book
those.
I read that had more of it. Actually, it might have been solely from that side because I think it was a book about the first Russian orbit guy, which was Yuri. What's his
Gagarin.
name? Gagarin. Gagarin book. No, that's not it, dude. Sorry.
Oh, what was it then?
Sorry. I mean, it was a good book, and it was all about. Maybe it's called Beyond. A young Russian sits on top of the most powerful rocket in the world. Sorry,
Dude,
dude.
I
It was like
remember
10 years
doing
ago.
research. This was back when I made shorts. The U.S. had our Concorde. This is also during like the Cold
The
War.
supersonic plane.
Passenger, yeah, plane,
Yeah.
and the Russians were like, "Oh fuck, we want to make our own Concorde," and so I forget the name of it, but basically it was just like the epitome of just like the tin box with wheels of a vehicle. It was like, fuck, I'm forgetting all the details, but it was like technically accurate. It could go supersonic, but like a significant. It was almost like every other flight would have some significant issue. Something would like blow up. Like it
I
wouldn't kill
think it's the
everyone, but like
Tupolev Tu-144 Soviet
that might
supersonic
be it.
passenger airline.
That sounds about right. It was just the jankest version of our Concorde, just so that they could say they had a supersonic passenger airplane. Like it would be just loud as fuck. No one could hear anybody, and it was always like banging around, and like people would come down the aisle to serve food, and like food would be fucking tossing everywhere. Um, but like technically, it checked the box, so they kept up with us. But that was like, I think their space race in general um, was just
I'm
always
looking
just
for
a
the yeah,
getaway
I'm looking for
version.
the section on Wikipedia that details like all the failings or there's a bunch of crashes listed.
Yeah, dude, shit. It was like literally every other flight, something catastrophic happened. But they're like, "But we did it." And I think they just copied the blueprints from us, like they stole them or something. I could be making that up. Um, But also, like, yeah, I remember stories about like incentives too with the Soviet Union, because they'd like have like screw manufacturers or stuff like that. Or, I don't know, fucking some like fundamental tool, but like because it's the Soviet Union, like they just like pooled together all the different tools, so there was no accountability to any one manufacturer of, say, this rivet or nail or whatever, screw, whatever it was. And so like they just have faulty ones, um and they were just busting all the time. But then they were like, oh, maybe if we just like stamp who made it onto the screw, then we'll have some accountability. And so they just realized it's this one plant that just
It's always the one
continuously,
plant making bad screws.
yeah, but it gets mixed in the whole batch, and they're like, well, fucking, we still hit the quota, so it works.
Where are you going? Oh, he's cross-eyed.
Gartaloo!
Gartaloo! What are you doing?
It said something about my memory card not
Your
functioning.
your one memory card.